Wow, hello everyone. Welcome to episode 62 of the Titanforge podcast, the most professional podcast on Twitch. My name is Dratnus.
That's right.
Joined by Tettles.
Yo, what's up?
And-
Hopefully my camera doesn't get scuffed in the middle of the show. If it does, then we turn it off.
Yeah, if that happens, that one's not my fault. That's just been happening to Tettles a little bit in our practice, or in our professional practice that we do for our podcast every week. And then Trell is our other host.
What up?
What up? How have you guys been? How's the week been for you, Trell?
It's been great. It's always fun testing beta keys. I have a good friend Goop from Limit that him and I really like to test new stuff, so we're always very excited to go in there and just blast some mobs.
Nice, yeah. I've seen some fun group compositions actually on beta. I've seen a lot of people playing together that wouldn't normally play together. For instance, people have been inviting Tettles keys. How's that been going for you?
It's been going okay, thanks, Dratnus. I've been playing with some European people. I'm going to ignore the fact that you flamed me. I mean, yeah, it's been fun. I think that people are kind of trolling with some of their gearing, grossly over-gearing the content that's currently provided them on beta with, 30 sockets.
Okay, can you explain 25? This 30 sockets or the 25 sockets? Like, can you multi-socket gear?
Trell, please explain.
So, through the ages, there have been lots of items added to the game that have 1, 2, or 3 sockets sometimes. I think the most recent one I remember is the Legion BOE item, the legendary BOE that had 3 sockets in it. But anyway, all those items you can use at some minimum item level that scale up in Mythic 60. Plus only on the Torghast realm. Yeah, anything eye level 60 or higher on the Torghast realm.
So it's beta scaling being exploited. The beta upscaling that lets you have a level 50 character go into a level 60 zone and scale all your gear up. Okay, that's pretty epic.
It's a level 60 character, but everything else is true. It just scales up all your gear to eye level 215 and then keeps whatever sockets you have. So people have been like really min-maxing something from Cataclysm, adding 1 more socket to your gear, you know?
That's so weird because sockets on the live servers have been just perfectly scaled for the duration of history. So, actually, speaking of that, have you guys seen there's been another Rex Troy one-shot thing?
Oh, yeah, I saw him. I actually didn't watch the video, but I saw the title was like, how to one-shot people in PvP while you're mounted and naked. And I'm like, what does this even mean?
Dude, imagine just...
I appreciate that.
Imagine just working on, like, the World of Warcraft tuning / QA or whatever department, and you just, like, your phone is subscribed to Rex Troy's channel, and anytime he uploads a video, your phone just vibrates, and you're like, oh no. Oh,
it's like a ticket you have to go take
It's another all-nighter, man.
You guys remember whenever that guy got banned for killing Mother? Solo in 10 seconds or whatever?
Yeah.
Yep. We got to get him on the show.
Dude, yeah. Can anybody help us wield our clout here to secure a guest? All right. So yeah, the beta keys have been cool. I've been watching. A lot of people are going pretty high on beta already, although I assume that's mostly an artifact of the gear being OP, like we were talking about.
And the fact that they're not playing affixes, they're playing just like plus 22.
Just
Prideful. And you're like,
dude, I did some of that for MDI practice before we knew what the affixes were going to be for some dungeons. We would just practice that. We would practice like fortified tyrannical, no affix beyond that, and just like practice the dungeon that way.
And you know what? That's perfectly reasonable to put fort or tyrannical on your key. I think
just neither.
If you want to do bare bones, you could put fortified and then like prideful, and that's like the most bare bones you ever really should go. I think that skipping the fort tyrannical portion of it is really suspect.
Yeah, we just put fortified and everything when we test. I don't think there's any reason not to.
Yeah.
I personally still haven't been playing too much beta. I don't expect that I will be. I mean, I'm staying current with what's going on there, but I've been playing some other games. I've been playing. I'm mostly finished with my Path of Exile experience for this league, but I might play the new ones coming out in like 4 weeks or whatever. If I do, I'll actually stream that, not just be AFK.
Saw you make a YouTube video yesterday.
Yep, I've been doing that.
I left a highly intelligent comment on that. It said, "What do these lines mean?"
I didn't see that.
In the middle of the video, Dratnus goes, dude, people who just skip towards the end of this video are just not going to know what these lines mean. So I just like sat there. I was like,
I only did one line, or I guess two. Yeah. It's one of those videos like the Microsoft Paint meme is it's so funny that people get mad about it that I can't get away from using Microsoft Paint. Anytime it's like close on what would be a good way to describe like a good program to record a video with, Microsoft Paint just wins because of how many people it annoys.
It's like, well, I thought about using Excel for this, but I'm doubling down on MS Paint.
That's why I drew some lines in the middle of it, because you know that's something that MS Paint is legitimately better at than like Excel. Otherwise, there'd be no excuse. One thing I also did with that video, so the video was like, it was a best and worst of Shadowlands features prediction type thing. One thing I did is I saved the bad stuff to the end. I saved like the Covenant stuff to the end, and it's like a 30-minute video. And the reason I did this was to avoid negative comments about that stuff, because, and this is true, every single person who's pro Covenant, over the duration of a 30-minute video, they either get called back to work at Blizzard Entertainment or get told by their mother that it's bedtime, right? One of those two things happens for every single person that's a fan of the existing Covenant system over the course of a 30-minute video. So they're not going to make it to the end and see that I don't like the Covenants. They're just going to see the parts at the start where I'm positive about it. And that way we're farming the good comments only.
All right, moving on.
Also, people that support you no matter what probably are the ones that watch to the end anyway, so...
Yeah.
You gotta put a mid-roll ad too to make sure that the people who really have to go back to work before you get to the bad stuff.
Dude, I hate YouTube's been automatically adding mid-roll ads to every video for the past like 2 months now. There's if you're, by the way, if you're a watcher of the Titanforge podcast, this is why my videos that normally have never had mid-roll ads before have them. It's because you not only have to wait until it's uploaded before you can remove it. Yeah. You have to wait until it's done processing on YouTube's end before you can tell it not to put mid-roll ads in the middle of your video, which for a video of the length of the Titanforge podcast is like hours.
I accidentally had a beginning ad, an end ad, and then 3 mid-roll ads in like a 13-minute video the other day, and then somebody pointed it out to me. I was like, I didn't fucking want these mid-roll ads anyways, thanks.
Yeah, so like, you know, I try to remove that, but like it's intentionally hard to do this. You have to opt out individually on every episode. Or on every video you upload. Yeah, after it's done processing in order to remove mid-roll ads. So like, I'm mostly going to miss it, right? Most of the time I'm not going to be able to remember to do that for my videos. And I just schedule it and then walk away from the fucking computer. Right, like, you know.
We all schedule it.
Yeah, you see it's done and you close it out and you're, you know. Once it's done uploading, you can close the window. But if you want to actually fix this ads thing, you have to wait until it's done processing, which is a lot longer.
I wish it would not automatically be on. I do not want them on.
Yeah, I wish it was easier to just blanket opt out. I think you could have done that at the very start as well before they actually made this change, but now I can't find a setting to do it.
Well, at the beginning, mid-roll ads were disabled by default.
Right, which was, you know, was nice. I wish you could just, maybe there's a way you can set it on your channel. I've looked for it a little bit, but I haven't looked for it hard enough to like claim that you can't. But I'll look into it some more, and then if you still can't, I'll be annoyed. But it's all just it's the same reason that all these things are like.
Yeah, I mean, I swear, I'm not trying to put in fucking 10 ads in this random ass video. I'm not trying to get that much money.
It makes sense though from YouTube's end, right? Like, you know, just changing something from an opt out to an opt in makes it so much harder to like that has a huge impact. You can like look at organ donor numbers per country, and like literally just whether it's opt in or opt out, you have the difference between like 20% and 80% organ donors in different countries, because like most people are just going to go with default settings. Dude, I'm serious. It's human psychology. It's just if you ever want to design something,
can we move on?
All right,
can we have this organ donor conversation?
We have a Shadowlands release date.
We're opting into that one.
Yep.
Right on time or too late?
So yeah, they released the little video thing, and then here's the global release time. So Monday the 26th / Tuesday the 27th. It's Monday the 26th for most, or for us, right? In NA. Mm-hmm. It'll be Tuesday the 27th for the East.
Most of the people who play the game.
Yeah, I mean, well, the dividing line is Paris at midnight. So yeah, for Los Angeles, 4 p.m. Pacific, New York, 7 p.m. Eastern. Nice timing, I'd say. Nice time in the day to have your expansion come out. Start of the week rather than the end of the week. So of course that's going to be, that's going to be unpopular for working folks that want to spend the weekend no-lifing the start of the expansion. But that's been the standard. Start too early or too late was your question?
Yeah, what do you guys think?
What do you think, Tuttles?
I'm of the opinion that, like, so basically, if they pushed it back at all, it would have to be after the first of the year. There's no real way that the expansion could potentially come out in November or December, just with how holidays end up working and how the developers like time and people who take vacations and whatnot ends up happening. So they can't really push back the release date very much at all. If they were to, it'd have to be into January, whenever the expansion would come out. So they're effectively pushing it back 3 months. I also don't think the expansion gets much better even if they push it back 3 months. Like, sure, there's some buggy parts of the game right now, but I suspect and hope that those bugs will be fixed by release regardless of what else ends up happening. But like the other stuff, I feel like a lot of the biggest problems currently with the beta cycle is that just like their fundamental philosophical arguments about how the game is going directionally, and those are not going to get changed in 3 months. Those would be the exact same. So I think you would get largely the same game even if you pushed it back 3 months, except it would just delay the start.
Yeah, so
there is, however, an argument about the raid release date, which I guess we can talk about as well.
So raid release, yeah, we have that as well, which is November 10th for normal and heroic, November 17th for mythic. If you're in NA, that is a week. So the second Tuesday of Mythic week is the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. So the second Thursday of Mythic is going to be Thanksgiving, and then that weekend will be Thanksgiving weekend. However, it's hard to find a raid release time in November or December that isn't going to cause there to be some week that's overlapped by serious amounts of holidays.
I mean, their best case scenario, honestly, was the expansion comes out in August, like it has the past two expansions, right? Legion and BFA both came out in August. I feel like August is basically the best time for an expansion release. I really do. It really does feel that way.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, because that lets you get your September raid, and then you're got the holidays while you're getting your tier, your first tier raid gear, and then first big raid comes out in January or whatever, and you're vibing. Yeah.
Dratnus, you looking forward to casting the Race to World First over Thanksgiving?
I feel like the Race to World First is likely to conclude by Thanksgiving Day.
17. I mean,
it's like a week and a half, right?
Uldir was.
Uldir died on the first day of the second reset, which was the Wednesday. So Uldir would have finished before Thanksgiving.
The
Emerald Nightmare,
Thanksgiving Day, right?
Yeah, Uldir would have finished on the 26th if it launched on November 17th. Emerald Nightmare would have finished on the 18th of November if it launched on the 17th.
True.
So if you average that out, it's it's only a couple days.
Did you just say if you average that out? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways,
okay. Look, there's a chance that World First will go over the Thanksgiving line, which I don't know. I mean, it's not that big. It's not like we're having big family gatherings anyway. I mean, you could, but you already have a good excuse to get out of that, right? With the pandemic, so you can use that to avoid losing more.
I mean, I don't have any plans for the Race World First, but I told my mother prepare for me to be maybe busy.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we have no plans yet, but also, whenever we do, we probably won't be able to tell you anyways if we ever do until you hear an announcement. So I don't know. Dude, people always ask me questions related to this kind of stuff on my Twitch stream. They ask me like, oh, do you have any plans for, Race the World First, future MDIs, all this stuff? And the answer is like, okay, no.
I would like to do them.
I'd love to do them. But also at some point, when you get contacted to do an event, you don't just get to tell people before they announce it, right? Like, if I'm ever doing any kind of casting work, I will not be the first person you hear it from unless I'm doing a very bad job and do not want to get invited back again, right? Like, I'm not just going to spoil somebody's event ever. So, I don't know. I think Tuttles and I we're both hopeful that there will be further casting opportunities for both of us, but no leaking ever. Of course,
we'd probably be doing it from our house, right?
Yeah, I feel like there would be. So the Race to World First, it's got to be remote if there is one this time.
And I'll fly out to San Francisco and cast with you in your apartment.
Man.
Or Dragons could go to Tuttle's house.
Yeah.
You could come over here, dude.
That would be kind of epic. We could have a gamer sleepover.
Bring his dino pillow.
Yeah.
Shit.
Dude, Tettle sent me a dino pillow bed set for my birthday.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention it ever on stream, but it's true. He sent me like the same pattern as this, just a full bedding set of dino sheets and stuff.
That was pretty good.
So I'm equipped. I'm equipped to do that. But yeah, I mean, second thing is like, which organizations are going to throw races to world first? There's like at least 4
I don't know what the deal
big
with Echo
candidates,
is, but
right? Yeah, that might do it. That's really exciting. I hope we see a lot of them,
Me too.
or at least I hope that
paid more.
So I either hope there's good competition between them, or there's like a team up between them that leads to it being a massive funded event. Either way, we're making out like bandits in this world, Tettles. All right, let's move on to talking about some further Shadowlands question or stuff. So yeah, our main topic this week is going to be the Prideful affix and the other 3 affixes that we've heard about or that we've played now in Shadowlands Alpha or Beta. Man, we are going to do you may be wondering where the patron name readout is. We're moving that to the end of the episode, right before the Q&A segment. So it's still here. All names are still going to be read. That's our plan going forward. We never intended to, to slight and we think the names are really funny. So we plan to keep them.
Yeah, they're great.
We just wanted to move them. I wanted to move them a little bit out of the start of the show because I felt like sometimes it interrupted the flow, much like I'm doing by explaining why we moved them. So we'll put them at the end right before the Q&A, and that way there's kind of the community bit all at the end, the Q&A and the patron bit all at the end, where all the community stuff comes in. And that way, if you want to listen specifically for that, you have to listen to the rest of our show, yoink. And if you
don't worry, the organ donor conversation definitely didn't disrupt the flow either.
That was relevant, dude. That was pertinent.
All right, okay.
All right, so let's move on. Let's move on to talking about Prideful. So Prideful, the new seasonal affix, I think we've explained a little bit how it looked. I don't think we've actually explained how it works because it wasn't. This is the first show since it's been testable, except for last week where we were talking with THD about other stuff. So Trell, would you like to explain the basic idea of Prideful?
Yeah, absolutely. The affix is a lot like the Season 2 seasonal affix in BFA Reaping. Every 20% count, you spawn basically like a mini encounter. And in this case, it's just one big mini boss mob called the Manifestation of Pride, I think. But whether or not you're in combat or not, the moment you hit 20% or 40% or 60%, this guy spawns. So you have to be ready for it. You want to plan around like finishing a pack and then spawning him barely with the last mob. That's typically the way to go with these affixes. And then either killing it solo or killing it with a fairly easy pack with it. But the big cool thing about it is that it gives you a 1 minute buff after you kill it. No, even if people are dead near, they changed it this week. If you're dead near, you still get the buff as long as you don't release. Mm-hmm. And what that buff does is it gives you 60% movement speed, 30% more damage, and like infinite mana for the whole minute, which is
they also
really,
changed it
really
to give
cool.
you 30% more healing as well.
Oh, healing as well. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. It used to not have healing. There used to not be a healing component to it, but they decided that they wanted to add a healing component, that the mana wasn't just enough for the healer stuff. I was really surprised that they even gave the healers mana. I thought it was just going to be like a damage and movement speed buff. So I was like, oh, that's kind of sick that you don't have to drop infinite numbers of fish feasts now. But then they tack on mana, they tack on healing power as well, which is nice.
This mob is actually fairly difficult. Like once we're hitting the 17, 18 level near the end of its life, what it does is it ramps up damage every 2 or 3 seconds and hits the party harder every time. But it's actually getting pretty difficult to kill. I think people are going to have to plan some CDs for this and high keys, healer CDs, any like magic damage DR that the group has, you're going to want to use on this guy toward the end. But it's honestly like really cool. Like everybody would rather play beta keys with Prideful on them than without Prideful because they like the affix that much, which is, I think, the best possible sign for Blizzard that they need to design more affixes like this.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about people taking all the affixes off their key except for Prideful, and they're literally just playing Prideful, no Tyrannical, no Fortified, no other affixes. But Prideful is legitimately more fun than not having an affix on the key, which, God, that's awesome. That is just, like, I feel like Awakened was like that, and Reaping was like that as well. And so we're now 3 out of 5 seasonal affixes. For the first time in history, we've got a majority of seasonal affixes being
not terrible.
Great. Yeah, so huge props to Blizzard for this one, I'd say.
I'm really glad they didn't like skimp out on it. They could have done like a 15-second damage buff. They could have done like a 10% damage buff, you know, but instead they made it a minute with 30%, which is really, really cool because that'll definitely like carry through an entire pull or like most of a boss fight on a high key.
Well, they have to incentivize you to actually pull the Prideful mob. Like, okay, so right now the Prideful mob is skippable. Like, I suspect that will get changed because it's a fairly toxic interaction. It's not time efficient. It's not time efficient to play a Prideful mob almost ever because of how long it takes. It's a single target mob that you can very rarely pull into other trash packs. So the 30% damage that you do gain from that, even for a minute.
Yeah, you would need to kill the thing within 20
efficient.
seconds to be gaining off of that, which you don't. So it's, I don't know. I mean, I think making it so it's not skippable would be good because it is fun to kill and it's fun to get this buff. But
I agree.
If you have the option to do something unfun that's better, players will always take that option, right? Like that's the thing about the design side of things is that if there's an easy way to skip it, now in practice the way to skip it is like Shadow Meld, right? There's not.
There's other ways.
Okay,
Theater Pain.
You could wipe to it and then just like shroud through it.
Okay, or that incurs a huge time cost as well.
So that incurs a time cost. Theater Pain has these portals that you can hit. And if you get far enough away from the manifestation of Pride as it's spawning, he just won't target you and stuff.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to figure out exactly how to handle that because there's a lot of ways that could be pretty toxic. If it's like if it just like perma global combats you and snaps to you at all times, then like you wipe and you start releasing and it just snaps to start corpse camping.
Because that's annoying, right? You're
getting
corpse camped by the thing. But at the same time, I don't want people running away from it and shadow melding it off because like I think there's a little bit of responsibility that you should have to play it because it's fun, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, if the fun gameplay pattern is killing this and getting the damage buff, but the faster gameplay pattern is shadow melding it, we will shadow meld it, right? Like we will shadow meld. We will shadow meld ourselves out of the fun of the game because we're trying to time the key.
Even an option. Yeah. I hate that's an option. So.
I think there's a way they could do it. I think it's a little complicated. They're gonna have to figure it out, but if you put it like boss combat where you could still release if you die, but you get still stealth and not drop combat, I think that would be ideal.
I'm not sure. One suggestion I saw that I thought was cool was if you use the awakened technology of if they're alive, they port to the boss when you pull a boss. That could effectively force you to pull them.
I like that too.
I also think that it is skippable even without like some real big cheese. I think that like. So say you have a Vengeance Demon Hunter tank, and he's tanking the last mob that's going to proc your 60% Prideful. If he walks away and like kills it by himself, and the rest of your party's like really far away, and then he double Infernal strikes away from the mob, I'm pretty sure he's far enough away to not be in combat with it.
They could do the reaping thing where it like global combats you on spawn at least. That could maybe help with at least those particular escapes. But yeah, I think
it's gonna be annoying for mana, but yeah, that is a possibility.
Trying to do like a long-term solution of a way that it actually, you know, is kind of future-proofed against players coming up with different ways to drop combat. Like I do think though that just like porting them to the last boss when you pull the last boss if they're up.
Yeah, I think that's actually the best of both worlds. That's what I said last week too, I believe. But
okay, that might have been where I heard this from.
It combines the awakened affix solution as well as having the fun about reaping. Spawning every 20%, which is like the best affix I've ever seen, honestly, if they do
that. Either way, though, I mean, I don't think it'll be a huge deal as long as the meta isn't like if we can skip them in a couple spots, but not always, and or if we're 5 Night Elves, we can always do it. I think it'll probably be okay. But yeah, I think it goes from like great to the best of all time if it's never skippable.
Yeah, if the MDI meta involves them skipping every single Prideful mob, I think I would be very sad.
Right.
Yeah, me too.
Not even that would be a live meta. That would never be a live meta, but like,
well, it might be.
MDI pull where they kill like one Prideful and then just do a massive pull to 30% that spawns a Prideful during that pull because it's so huge, and then they get another buff for the next big pull. That'd be awesome.
That's that shit.
Yeah, although I wonder how much like the casual MDI viewer would see like the fact that the pull is so much bigger because of the Prideful mob and like just be like, oh,
no, they wouldn't be able
so
to see it because of the triple hunter. They wouldn't be able to see past the triple hunter, man. They just have to go into chat and be like, why are they playing 300?
Prideful's too easy, yeah.
Yeah, there's no winning, man. All right, let's see. Next affix. I guess before we get to the other affixes, let us do our tip of the week segment. Charles, what is your tip of the week?
All right, so I want to mention this every once in a while because it's crazy that this happened, but every taunt in the game, all 6 taunt buttons in the game have a taunt window that you put on the target that you press it on. It lasts 3 seconds, and the tooltip just says, like if you're a monk, it only talks about the movement increase on it, the 50% movement speed increase. Man, English is hard. But there's actually a hidden part of taunt on every single debuff out there. There's a 200% threat increase for 3 seconds. And Blizzard removed all those tooltips like a year and a half ago, I think. But they all still exist. And you have to like maximize your threat through that window. Like since people don't know it's there, they don't really use taunt correctly. But you should do it right before you hit a global with maximum threat. Like if you're going into a pull, you want to hit taunt and then shield slam and then thunderclap, rather than shield slam, thunderclap, then taunt, for example.
Taunt and Crucible of Flame.
Yeah, it's tough because like
yeah, that's a tough.
On the one hand, you have these split incentives in some spots, right? Like last week we were talking about if you're fighting 2 targets, you maybe taunt one and hit the other. But like, so that's the best way to avoid having either one fall off. But if you want to maximize your total threat, you're going to want to hit the taunt and then damage into the same target. And that, if you can afford that, will be better long term because you'll be generating more total threat. My tip of the week, I'm going to piggyback off of this, is so this taunt debuff and all other versions of it provide a fixate for those 3 seconds as well, which means that the target, even if they lose threat on you or even if they can't attack you, will continue to try to attack you for the 3 seconds of the taunt debuff. This is really important for stuff like Netherwalk taunting, like taunt and Netherwalk in combination, or taunt and bubble. People have, I've talked about Nether taunting in the past, and I get comments on videos where people are like, you can't do that, the mobs won't attack you because you're immune. They do attack you for the duration of the taunt debuff, though, and it's really powerful.
You also have to taunt before you nether, right? Because you're not able to nether while
yes.
you're... Yeah, taunt while you're nethered.
And that's actually, for Demon Hunters in particular, you've got a pretty rough window there, because obviously you've got a little bit of a window where you can actually get hit. So a common strategy is actually blur taunt nether if you're trying to do this to maximize the chance that you're not going to get one shot, or step away for a second and then taunt nether so that you're not actually in melee range for any moment. These are
probably the safest.
Yeah, whereas if you're playing like a paladin, bubble can be hit first and then you can taunt. Most of the time you're trying to do this, you're trying to like soak a ability like the smash from Urgroth, Awaken Mob, or some kind of boss ability like Wasting Strike from Lord Waycrest. And in those cases, usually you need the cast to start while you have threat, but you don't need it to finish while you have threat. Like you need the cast to start while the boss is targeting you, but not finish. So it's important to have taunted already before the cast starts, even if you're a little bit early and the cast finishes while it's like even if your bubble falls off and the cast finishes, well, that'll cause you to die. So you actually do have a pretty narrow window there.
It's also useful for things like melee swing timers for necrotic resets. So you can like watch.
Sure.
Like, it's only useful in like certain bosses or mobs.
Right. It's like Volcall, maybe.
Yeah.
Volcall has a really fast auto attack, so your tank's gonna have a hard time dropping necrotic. If you see their stack get under 3 seconds, that's the duration of your taunt window, right? Just hit taunt and they will, they'll be fine. You can either taunt and run away, or you can taunt and immune. Or you can even just taunt and defensive for a lot of specs and be okay.
It's true, yeah. I just think it's crazy. Like, I even looked on Wowhead and all kinds of sites to see if there was still any kind of tooltip out there that said there's a threat increase on every taunt. And there's literally no information about it anywhere because Blizzard just took it out of the game. But in logs, you can see, I think if you look at threat, that it still increases the threat. And I think that's like crazy for new tank players that they don't have access to that information, because that's like critically important.
Yeah, it's definitely really big. And it's not clear what the best thing to do is in a lot of polls as well, like whether building the threat on the one guy or like using the taunt as a band-aid. It's tough because like taunt has 2 different important functionalities in those polls, right? It's like it's a threat increase multiplier on some mobs, but on other mobs you just need to use it to like save it from hitting your healer.
It's also an ability to range pull mobs.
Yeah,
with a non-trivial amount of threat.
And
right?
it's like an off GCD ability to pull stuff with. Yeah, taunt is just doing so much work, and you need to figure out which of those modes is the most important at any given time, because you're really limited on how many taunts you get to cast. Very, very good thing for tanks to pick up, though. All right, let's move on to Tettles' clip of the week.
I got no explaining to do.
All right, so this is this is the sanguine depths.
This is right
I saw
after
this live. Yes.
This is right after I flamed the shit out of Dratnos too, so I really deserve this one.
You do hate to see that one.
I was so mad.
Dude, yeah, if you continue watching in this VOD, by the way, you'll see him literally pretend to DC. let's hit that continue watching.
I forgot that I
That's
did
right.
that.
Yeah,
I
I
forgot that I
included
did
that.
that actually.
I'm gonna hit continue watching. So yeah,
That was good.
gets lobbed off. Wow, suddenly I'm in like 480p here. Gets lobbed off and then just puts on this DVD window AFK screen and then pretends to DC. Beautiful stuff.
I don't know what happened, guys. I disconnected.
Yeah, you hate to see it. Okay.
I love how you just have a DVD screen ready. That's
It's
so
a good BRB thing for your cam, like when you want to turn your camera off to like get up or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Up next, we have 3 other affixes that are all 3 of these playable on beta.
Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So we've got inspiring, spiteful, and storming coming in, and skittish and teaming were tinfoil hatted by Squishy to be getting removed, and then confirmed to be getting removed. So big hats off to Squishy for getting the tinfoil map on like the removed affixes correct before it was announced. He like
Squishy. He DM'd me that day,
Yeah.
and he's like, I think they made a mistake. They removed skittish and teaming instead of necrotic and bolstering.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think skittish and teaming were good candidates to be removed if you had to pick. If you only had to pick 2 affixes, I could see an argument for skittish and teaming.
I would say like teaming and Necro.
I feel like skittish and teaming have a little bit less upside to them than the other affixes. Like in their worst case, they're less annoying, perhaps. Like people hate them less, but nobody likes skittish or teaming, right? Like skittish is not a fun affix to it's not a fun challenge to conquer, right? You never get to the end of the dungeon and you're like, man, I did it, I beat a skittish dungeon. Whereas you kind of are with necrotic.
That's true. Don't worry, they added in storming, so
Yeah. The new affixes have gotten a little bit less of a positive reception than Prideful has.
I'm happy that they're adding new affixes.
Yeah.
Let's get out in front of this. I'm happy that they're adding new affixes, and I think this is actually a great change that we have at least something that's coming. This is absolutely fantastic, and I think 2 of the 3 of them are also fine.
Also, I think that affixes can look bad and particularly like when you see it on beta. In the context of like you're testing a new affix, usually that's been a seasonal affix, right? Usually you're kind of setting yourself up for like I have to deal with this every week for the next 6 weeks or 6 months. These affixes aren't going to be that though. These are like weekly rotation affixes. You're not going to have to deal with these more than like 2 or 3 out of every 12 weeks, and you're never going to have to deal with them back-to-back weeks. So they can be like let's start with inspiring, for instance. Inspiring is a lot like Emissary of the Tides.
Yep.
It's
actually more. It's closer to infested since you can hard CC them for as long as you want.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, and even though it's like the tides and they prevent interrupts and CC around them, you can separate them easily. As far as I've seen, I haven't done every dungeon on inspiring, but I think Theater of Pain I did. Every inspiring mob was actually a controllable mob, and you could do the pulls normally and just pull them late, or like kill the priority target that casts and then pull it in. It wasn't too bad so far, at least.
Right. So it's Emissary of the Tides, except for the Emissary is a pre-existing mob in the dungeon and is fully susceptible to CC, not on that 8-second thing like you were talking about.
Right, and it does not melee for magic damage, thank God, and it does not teleport to Internal Palace for like 15 seconds or something and cause everything to keep its aura forever.
Oh, dude, yeah. Do you remember when like it really mattered to stun the tides right before it disappeared, so it would just disappear instead of casting?
Yeah.
God, that was good gameplay. So, in a lot of ways, then we're talking about a better version of just Emissary of the Tides. Like a lot of, I'd say, improvements to the Emissary of the Tides model.
Substantially easier.
Yeah.
It also felt like not very many of the lieutenant mobs were like. Did you see any inspired lieutenant mobs, Trell? I played. I
didn't in theater. That's what I was saying. I think it was on all good mobs so far.
Yeah, I played in a couple dungeons as well. I played in like the other side. I didn't see any lieutenant mobs that were like just god awful. But
I think I played in Mists as well. Everything was CCable there. Yeah,
one difference I guess from Emissaries of the Tides is going to be that like you can't. in a lot of cases, you're not going to be able to like ring out the tides and pull the rest of the pack and stay out of combat because these are like linked mobs with packs now because they're in the packs themselves. But I don't have a huge problem with that because you can just pair it for a full minute and that's a new functionality that you didn't have last time.
I think there's more ways to take care of it than there were with Tide. So honestly, it's
like Infested. Not too bad. Like Infested, you have the play pattern of like fighting 3 inspiring mobs all at once, right? Like CC1, kill the pack around it, CC1, kill the pack around it, keep the CCs maintained, CC another, kill the pack around it, and then fight 3 mobs that all at once that have the inspiring aura. And that's I think this is potentially a best of both worlds case of Tides, Emissaries, and Infested, because I think that play pattern from Infested in a couple of spots in BFA was actually pretty great. Like in parts of Freehold, parts of the Underrot, where you're like, trying to figure out the play between like, do we CC infested mobs or non-infested mobs? What can we set up here to get a nice efficient pull despite this restriction?
I think that Inspiring is actually going to be okay for most instances. I think for a couple that's going to be like really rough. Spires of Ascension and Necrotic Wake are like the ones that stick out in my mind of they're just like a lot of mobs that you have to kick with regular frequency. I do think that it's also going to slow you down because like having to play like Tritonus just said with those tactics of like how you're controlling everything like that. It's just always going to innately be slower.
Yeah, definitely potentially. I think there's definitely going to be some instances. Hopefully this is not a weekly rotation on like which mobs.
I don't think they would, dude, because it's not a seasonal affix. Yeah.
As long as it's the same mobs every time, I think people will find a way to like keep the pulls, the same number of pulls, like just chaining into it late after you kill the priority kick target, stuff like that. Sure. But it is definitely possible that you have to add 2 pulls to the dungeon because of it. You're right.
Yeah, so it may not be a push week affix, but I don't know.
It's not impossible to play, right? I think that's more of the point, is that it's not just totally inhibiting.
All right, Spiteful.
This is a rough one.
Whenever any mob dies, it will summon a Spiteful Shade, which has a flat amount of health that scales with key level, and it loses 8% of its health per second, and it does nothing but melee very hard. Currently around 2 to 3 times the melee damage of regular creatures in the dungeon, which is scaling with key level, so just like regular damage in the dungeon does. And it can be crowd controlled with stuns, slows, and knocks, but not other stuff, right? The other stuff is it's not.
No, you can banish it. I've cycloned it before.
Yeah, you can do a lot.
Okay.
They're aberrations. So
Cyclone's actually a really good idea.
Yeah,
Banish and Cyclone are both like the best.
That sounds biz.
So it's like 6-second CC, and then out of that 6-second CC, then they just like go away pretty quickly because they only last for 13 seconds in total, and it takes like 2 seconds to get them cycloned or banished. So yeah, those are actually really good ways of being able to deal with them. It's important to note that those melees are physical damage, so it's mitigated by like plate armor. I've watched some leather dudes get clocked to the face and get 1 hit. I watched some plate dudes not take much damage.
So this is a challenge for melee players particularly, right? Because like they're going to spawn on you and not 30 yards away.
Everyone can see them per chat. Everyone can target them and CC each other's basically grand illusions. They're like, the only problem right now I think is that they're not clear who they're going to fixate until you see them like physically moving out of the pack at a ranged player. But if you're a melee player, you're not sure until they just hit you.
So I think that once people have weak cores for it, it should be better, right?
Yeah, I think Blizzard should actually improve it a little bit and like add a red line, between them and their target, make their movement speed like a little bit slower so people have a moment to react.
Give them maybe ramping movement speed where it like, over the course of their life they start zooming.
I hate that. Shut up.
That would make it harder for ranged and easier for melee at the same time, which is that's the problem with the affix right now, right? Is that it's unbalanced in terms of melee versus range difficulty.
No, I also think that people are really bad at playing around it.
Right.
I generally lend it to like. I think that it will get better once people are just better at dealing with the mobs. Like right now, people are so shit at CCing them correctly and like actually utilizing their abilities to be able to not get just melee to the face. If
you're in melee, though, you need to CC this for like close to the full amount of time, or go out of melee to kite it, right?
A slow is like a I don't know, 30% slow is enough to just be able to kite it around indefinitely.
Right, but
the problem here is that they're already one-shotting on like 17, 18 plus. Like they just one-shot melee.
I think they should be reduced to 8 seconds. Like that's about where I
Well,
think that it should be
the
changed
problem
there.
with those kind of nerfs is that it still remains unbalanced for range, right? Like if you make it 8 seconds, range literally can just ignore it, right? It just takes one stun when it spawns, and the range player never has to do anything about this. Whereas a melee player still gets one hit if it's not like 8 seconds of staying CC'd is a lot. So like it's still something where melee have to do a lot of thinking and range has to do no thinking, right? So I think you want to try and find a change like that causes it to become easier for melee and harder for ranged at the same time.
Well, one of the main problems is they just spawn wherever the mob dies. They spawn as soon as the mob dies. They're non-death affix. And I think they should spawn like in a radius around the player who they're going to target, just like Grand Illusions did, so that everybody has like a equal chance of getting hit.
That would flip
it
it back, right? To like now it's harder for range than it is for melee because it's not just
now I
like
have to cancel my fucking casts and run
it's
away.
not in the AoE stun puddle.
Yeah. Well, they're not dying like instantly on high keys already either way, but still, it's like that I think should change the radius around a player. And then also there should be a grace period of when they spawn, because right now they like melee whoever gets threat on them for the first second, and then they fixate someone and go off. So there's a chance they just kill the melee anyway, even if they fixate range. So there needs to be a grace period where they don't do anything and then target their player.
Yeah, I feel like just like ramp up its damage and speed as it lives longer.
I think it's gonna be overly punishing for melee. I do still think that that's going to be more punishing for melee than it will actually
maybe
range. I mean, if it okay, Druid has the most utility in the game. If it walked towards me, I'm literally just gonna fucking Typhoon it away from me again.
Maybe give it increased speed based on the distance it still has to travel. So the farther away the thing is, the faster it moves, and the closer it gets.
All right, there we go.
Moves.
Now we're talking something that's a little bit more reasonable.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not. Obviously, I've just watched this one. I haven't played it, so.
I think that this affix is actually fine. I think that people need a little bit more practice on it, and then there can be some like reassessments. I think that right now, 13 seconds on the despawn is a little bit too long. I think if you bumped it down to 8, like if you hit the mobs with like an AoE stun, you can just kite out the other like 3-4 seconds of it, and it should not be too terribly punishing for melee.
I like this as well as an on-death affix. Good.
Sorry, I'm like fixated on this idea. I think it really should spawn in a radius around the player, because even if they're in melee, it'll spawn like slightly out of the pack, and they don't have to leave melee range to keep DPSing, and they can decide what to do. And if it's on a radius around the ranged player, they could kite it through the pack and like put a vortex down the pack and make sure people kill it. Like there's just a lot more counterplay that way. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could see that working, although I think that would detract a little bit from feeling like it's the spirit of the thing you killed, right? Like the flavor of the affix, maybe. My RPG elements.
True. But if you kill a bunch of stuff at once, and then all of a sudden everybody has like 2 delusions, and you have to take care of it, and that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I could see that being potentially an improvement. I like this direction for on-death affixes more than bursting direction for like I feel like this is a creative way to create a new affix that is an on-death affix that's impactful, that does something different than the previous ones. So I feel like all 3 of these affixes have quite a high degree of creativity, maybe borrowed creativity from previous affixes in some cases, but still, that's a fine place to borrow from, right? Seasonal affixes are a treasure trove of design to be mined from, I'd say, given once they're retired. Speaking of affixes that borrow a little bit from previous ones, we have Storming. Storming is the next one. That's
fucking cursed affix.
Yeah. So
this is just another raw new FX. Like it just needs some work.
Random tornadoes will spawn around enemy creatures while they're in combat. The initial location is a swirly, and then for about 10 seconds, you get a spiraling tornado. Getting hit will cause you to take damage and be knocked back. And these spawn around the mobs, not the players, so it's a melee affix, not a ranged affix. Similar to perhaps Spiteful, you might recognize this. It seems like there's quite a bit of work actually being done here to be melee, to make affixes that are hostile to melee rather than hostile to range. Because like Volcanic, for instance, was only hostile to ranged. Storming only hostile to melee. I think there's some reasonableness to that, right? Like if you look at the meta from BFA, 3 melee and 2 melee, 1 range were like the dominant compositions, and only at the very end did we start seeing a little bit of 1 melee, 2 range, and we never saw 0 melee, 3 ranged. So it's kind of a pendulum, like they do the pendulum design where they want it to kind of swing back from melee to range friendliness. Or if it's in one side, they want to push it to the other side, and they don't care too much about hitting the middle so much as like not being at the far side in one direction for 2 expansions in a row.
Yeah. I saw an idea on Twitter, I think, of A big problem with storming right now is that like when you pull a pack of 7 or 8 mobs, which is normal, one pack sometimes has 8 mobs, you get like 8 tornadoes, and they're just covering your entire screen. That's not
It should
an idea
absolutely not be one fucking tornado per mob pulled.
Yeah, it definitely needs to have a cap on the tornadoes, like maybe 3 max, or just like make the tornado very small and have 1 max, and then increase the size of the tornado based on how many you pull. That'd be cool, I think. Also, they should just make them smaller in general and easier to avoid, but also remaining a slight challenge.
Yeah, so people are mostly concerned with this one because it's like it feels overtuned, right?
Yeah, it just seems like too much for melee. Whereas Volcanic, there's definitely some good counterplay. This is obviously a mirror of Volcanic for melee, and I think it should be the same kind of concept for melee.
Yeah, I definitely, much as I loved the first room of King's Rest, dodging those tornadoes, I don't know. Dodging 2 of them in the King's Rest room was hard enough. Dodging more is a big challenge. Dude.
Also, it's worth noting it's not so bad when you can move the whole pack easily, but places like Spires have tons of casters and you just can't move the packs hardly at all, or Sanguine Depths where everything like plants and throws stuff at you, throws research or whatever. You just can't move those mobs very easily, so you have to deal with the tornadoes where they are. But it really felt like a non-affix in Mists, for example, where you could just move wherever you want.
Interesting. I wonder if that's something that they could or should fix. Also, Tettles, your camera's being...
I'll turn it off.
No, it's fine.
I see that, too.
You can turn it back on if you want. I was just letting you know if you didn't, so you could try and fix it.
I can't fix it. I can't fix it.
This is so sad.
I don't know how to fix it, man.
My name is Tettles now.
F.
Oh, yeah, dude. That's swap positions. All right, turn it back on.
Fixed?
Oh, fixed, dude. Poggers. All right. What do you think about storming, Tettles?
I just think that it like what Trell was saying about the kiting issue. I just think it like traps your melee in like this kind of a bubble. And it also does just way too much damage. It should absolutely be focused on the disrupt more than the damage component to it. Like, because right now it does, I don't know, like 60% of your HP if you get hit by 1, which is a substantial amount. It should be really focused on the disrupt, not the damage. And I just think in addition to that, like having 1 tornado per mob that you have pulled in a pack, like it should only be 1 tornado, like period. Like, and it can be a bigger tornado for however many mobs you have pulled. It can even get bigger if you really want it to. But
bigger, faster, and more damaging. Just if you pull 30 mobs, it's just like the tornado is like screen wide, and it just like moves around in a circle and instantly one-shots your whole team and lobs them off the platform as well, like we saw in Tettles' clip of the week.
I think making the storming tornadoes like Volcanic was kind of a mistake because you don't like, at least with Volcanic, it's like a ground effect, so you can dodge out of the ground effect and you're ranged.
Yeah, and then it's over.
And like, in addition to that, range can always go into melee. Melee can't walk out of these fucking tornadoes and go to range while still doing damage, right? Like, that's just not an option. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, you could dodge it if there was 1. Player. Yeah.
If Volcanic was like storming, imagine you're sitting at range fighting a pack with like 10 mobs in it, and then all of a sudden Volcanic spawns and a ring around you like it does on live, but instead of like the normal size, they're like 3 times as big. So they're just all over your character, and then after they go off, they start spinning in circles.
Yeah, you want to click on that tweet, Dratnus, that I just put underneath the storming thing?
Sure. Let's go take a look.
This is the exact embodiment of how melee are whenever storming week is occurring currently. It's actually just so trash, man. The first time I played it as ranged and got hit by it too, I was like, wait, I just got hit by that trying to walk into melee. I was like,
that's a good thumbnail, Tettles. Good job.
Yeah.
Storming is so bad, man. They have to fix it. Like, there's no way that they can leave it like it is, because it's just, I think it's even worse than like shit like pre-nerfed quaking and teaming and stuff.
I am pretty positive that they'll change it and make it a little bit more friendly, because it's going to affect like 3 out of 5 party members usually, and I think it's likely that people will see that early on and it'll get fixed. But there is a chance it goes live like this, so hopefully that doesn't happen.
I feel like
that's a do not play week, bro.
Even if this does go live, I'm confident that this is something that'll get changed as well, because it's going to punish low level players too, right? It's not just like if you're doing a weekly 10 and you're a melee player, like you're gonna die to this, right? And that's a lot of people. So, you know, they it's not something like quaking, which makes a 22 impossible that nobody sees, and so it seems fine in a weekly 10. It's like a little bit more damage, but not enough to stop groups from running. So like that flies under the radar for a lot longer. Like this is much like a tornado. You can see it on the radar.
Well, in a couple of dungeons, you actually just can't see the tornadoes, like where they're going to spawn. Like Spires of Ascension, the spawn animation for the tornado is like white color. Spires of Ascension, like all the flooring in Spires is white, and it's like it's really it clashes pretty hard. Like, sure, you can still see it somewhat, but it's not. It doesn't telegraph that well.
Yeah, all in all, so like obviously we have suggestions for these affixes, and I think they're the three of them are at slightly different levels of readiness to go live as of right now. But I'm really positive. I'm really hyped to see them creating interesting affixes for the core rotation, not just the seasonal slot, and lobbing affixes like Skittish and Teeming, which we just saw. So we have the new affix rows
not
for
the rotation.
Shadowlands.
Not the rotation. This is that graphic is not the rotation. It just shows you what's on the level 4 row and level 7 row.
Right. So Inspiring and Spiteful are going to be on the level 4 row, and Storming is going to be on the level 7 row. Which
Spiteful Storming.
The level 7 row has that weird distinction of still being the row that has like a lot of this is the row with some really hard affixes, and then also Volcanic and Quaking on it, which are like the softballs, the freebies. And level 4, I'd say, is a little bit more well balanced between difficulty.
There's a bunch of on death fixes on the level 4 row, right?
Yeah, they wanted to keep, I think, all the on death affixes on the same row, which is sensible to me. But notably, we now have 4 out of 6 being on death affixes instead of a lower ratio. There was 3 out of 5 or 3 out of 6 in BFA that were on death. So the majority of weeks are going to have on death affixes if these are evenly balanced between the weeks, which I assume they will be.
Can you imagine Spiteful and Storming on the same on the same dungeon? Like, if that was a rotation, man, it's just like, okay, so you get the Spiteful mobs that spawn on you. You want to walk away from them, and then you just have a wall of tornadoes behind you, and you're like,
guess I'm gonna die.
Guess I die.
Yeah,
one melee.
That's I mean, they're definitely, it's definitely harsh for melee. The thing about melee as well is that melee are also already without affixes. It looks like stuff like Moonkin and Warlock are. Like, Moonkin and Warlock already looked good, damage-wise, right? Like, damage profile-wise for Shadowlands, Mythic Plus.
Yeah.
They also are now...
stealth nerf a little bit.
Yeah, Mythic Raptor did get a... It was a pretty big nerf, actually, to its damage. Mythic Raptor is a bigger portion of their M+ damage than their raid damage, too. But... So, yes, that definitely does hurt, but... I actually don't know about their continuing viability in Mythic Plus, but I imagine that even if not, like... Even if their damage is no longer at the top, previously, right, in this beta cycle, stuff like Moonkin, which still is, their damage is at the top, and they have they're at the range for these affixes, and they have the banish for the Spiteful mobs and the Typhoon, the Vortex and stuff. It seems like the stars are really aligning for Tettles here on his
and Soothe for Raving, and Typhoon for
yeah.
But
Spriest
and Hunter both look really good as well. Like, I actually think Shadow's utility is getting a little bit of the Stonks treatment too, with Mass Dispel and Bursting, like we're going to talk about here in a second.
Ooh, yeah. So we do have we've talked about these changes before, but they are also definitely pertinent to this discussion. The other affix updates, Bursting, yeah, like you said, magic effect, dispellable. Shadow Priest, welcome. Welcome to the party.
Welcome to my key group, Shadow Priest.
I'm gonna whisper some Shadow Priest friend on Bursting Week, and I'll be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they'll be like, "Wow, how the turntables have turned."
The turntables have turned. How the spinning plates have fallen.
And Trial Green.
That wasn't my camera.
Man. Damage is now flat from Bursting as well, which love that. Love the I love the affixes being tuned such that they're like Bursting was such a pain in low level keys in scaling wise. So I think that in general, moving things towards scaling with key level rather than not is a good way to go. Volcanic also like that, and also knocks people up. I really
lame.
like this change as well.
It's lame, and it makes me feel like an idiot every single time I get knocked up. And
that's
like,
what it should do, though, right? Like you should
That's
dodge
right.
the volcanoes, right? Previously,
see,
the good move was to not dodge them, and now it's to dodge them.
Well, previously I made the decision whether or not I get just bark skin and get hit by it, but now I just never get hit by it because it's annoying. I actually got out of the Necropolis and Necrotic Wake. Just
by volcanic boosting.
Yeah,
dude, I've been watching a lot of speedrun content over the past couple weeks on YouTube, and volcanic is absolutely the kind of thing that I imagine could let you skip parts of dungeons. Yeah, like clicking through stuff.
I bet there's ways to get over invisible walls with volcanoes. I feel like
there has to be.
When they spoiled this, I speculated about it, and I'm glad you were able to make something work.
Then like two-seaters through it or some shit. Like I bet there is some way to like really troll something.
There's actually, I already can think of a spot in Theater of Pain, the wings that you go through to get to the boss of each wing. The boss is like at the beginning of the wing there, but just like slightly elevated. Like I'm sure you could jump up there with volcanic and like go activate the skip for the portal area. I'll have to try that at some point.
Holy shit, you're right. I bet you can. And it's like Druid and Demon Hunter are probably like Moonkin and Demon Hunter are probably the best because Demon Hunter has their own wings and Moonkin can wild charge and flap while in the air to actually have control of wherever they're going. So
yeah, and you can just reset the boss and go hit the orb they added this week.
What a meme, man.
Sanguine is having its duration reduced to 20 seconds from 60.
That's awesome.
This change.
This is on the level of the quaking change of like, yes, this will still punish you for doing Sanguine wrong, but it will not just like continue punishing you for the next year.
For the next trash pack that you try to pull.
This is a beautiful, beautiful change to the affix. Love to see it. Grievous is now flat instead of % health. I think also cool change there. Added functionality.
That's actually really overtuned right now. Grievous is incredibly hard, even with 1 stack at the moment.
Okay, so
in theory, this is a good change.
Maybe change the flat number, but changing 2 flat from % is we're vibing.
Bursting is also overtuned in terms of damage that it's doing by the flat amount. But again, it's like we were saying, the flat amount is overtuned, not the change of the functionality is the good part of those.
Right, like you just change one number and it works, right? Grievous has new functionality. Non-periodic heals now remove 1 stack of Grievous per target as well. This is just taking out just a massive middle finger and aiming it directly at Restoration Druid. Just being like,
to be honest, though, I like that.
For stuff like Word of Glory.
So Word of Glory removes 1 from everybody, right?
Yep.
Atonement.
It feels pretty good
still?
Yeah, Atonement still does. Like, just having Atonement on someone just keeps their stacks at maximum 1 stack of Grievous. But honestly, it does feel good to cast Vivify as a tank and like remove someone's stack.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think that's cool. I'm not convinced that Atonement should like a dot tick while Atonement's up feels to me like a hot. It feels to me like Shadow Word Pain ticking and removing a stack from everybody. I would maybe be okay with it if it was just like Smite Atonement healing. Like Atonement healing causes as a result of pressing 1 button. But like the fact that just like any Atonement transfer is removing a stack, on the one hand, like that feels bad. On the other hand, Disc Priest could use an expansion of Grievous not being a living hell for them. So it's not the end of the world, I think, if Disc has an easy time with Grievous.
It's pretty toxic right now for the exact reason that you just said. It's like they'll have a tone on everybody and then they'll penance and it just removes every single stack of Grievous off the party. Like,
right, because penance is like 4 instances of Atonement healing.
Exactly. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
but they'd have to actually top the player's health bars to remove that last stack. So actually, when they penance, they just keep everyone at 1 stack.
Okay.
It is actually so overtuned right now, though.
Good call.
on an 18, 1 stack of Grievous was ticking for like 8k, and people have 30k health. So it's like a third of their health.
So it's the old Grievous, except it can stack up, instead of being able to stack up to 4, it can just stack up to 16, and it gains 4 stacks per go. Ah, yes.
Yeah, basically. Barely. I'm sure they'll tune it.
That's only on a 17, and
right.
it keeps scaling.
You just get to a high enough key, and you're getting 1 shot by a Grievous tick or like a 1 stack. Ah, yes.
That's a Rex Troy video right there.
And then Explosive now appears slightly farther away from enemies that summon them.
Okay,
seems reasonable to me. Yeah.
Their developer note on that is good. Their implementation of it is bad. It spawns, okay, if you're at max melee on one end of the mob and the explosive spawns on the other end of the mob, you have to like literally just march over to the explosive to be able to hit it. It's like, I like the direction that they're going with it. Maybe slightly different implementation of how to make explosive not terrible.
Maybe give him a larger hitbox so you can just hit him from 10 yards away. Or
I was
whatever.
thinking not classify them as totems and have them just immediately shoot to the top of your fucking target frames. But
dude, I my favorite thing about every different UI is solving the problem of where the hell are my explosive frames going? Because like sometimes they're just sometimes explosive nameplates just do weird stuff. And
I like them at the bottom, personally.
Sometimes they fly in one place, sometimes they fly in the other, sometimes they're just interspersed, and you're just like, what is happening? Yeah.
I like them at the bottom because I think the worst explosive pull is like the first pull Toligor with everything. And if they're at the bottom, they're always in the exact same spot on your screen if you're looking at the pack. Whereas if they're on top, they'll like be at varying heights because the mobs will die or like come in closer to each other and stack higher. But that's just a random tangent. I'm
they just need to be like totem coded units so that you don't just immediately jump to the top of your frames by default.
Or just turn off nameplates for explosives. Just make it so you have to actually click on the glowy ball.
Yeah, all right, bro.
That I feel like I feel like that.
Or you just make your melee like actually use the mobility cooldown to be able to go fucking into the explosive. That's also cool. Make them charge the explosive across melee range.
What I really want to see is a storming explosive interaction. Like, okay, like have you ever heard of Sharknado, where if a shark gets hit by a tornado, it gets picked up and becomes super deadly? So like if an explosive gets hit by a storming tornado, it just gets picked up, and now you have like a red fire tornado that does both.
And you can only hit the orb if you're carrying.
yeah. The Covenant specific explosive orbs I'm still all about. All right, troll suggestions aside, affix changes, I think I'm very excited to see them. Still some changes we're looking to see with many of these affixes, including the new ones and the ones that they've adjusted. There are still concerns we have about them, but I think the vibe is hugely positive with affixes getting a look here, because what we were talking about 6 months ago was like we wanted to see them do stuff with affixes. I think this is exactly that. This like 3 new ones, lobbing some old ones, changing all the existing ones. Beautiful stuff. I think this is going to go a long way to revitalizing Mythic Plus on an expansion to expansion basis if they continue with this trend.
Agreed.
All right, let us move on to our long. We've got a nice amount of Q&A this week, but before we get there, we have to thank our supporters over at Patreon.com for making our show possible. If you enjoy the content, that's a place where you can go to support us. Among them are, and there's the Patreon Guild as well. They've been vibing out.
Titanforge Podlings, yeah.
Titanforge Podlings, yeah. They are over on US Proudmore alongside Paul and some others on this list that have removed the of US Proudmore from their name. I was going to do a cool thing where I grouped them all together, but they've now all done new names. So Paul of US Proudmore, Anastasia is in Horrific Visions Purgatory, been there. Fly Like a Boomkin. Tettles has activated Delete's Trap card. Just Gopher. Some kid that is enjoying all this content Tettles has been pumping out. King of Skills, Zuko, Ja, Drunk Swede from Legion of Lemmings, Argent Dawn EU. I Wish I Was Dratnos' Dino Pillow, Chromed, Seraphicus, Trekkie, The Marsh Hare, Regulus, Nevernude, Chewy. To Romantically Enslave Lady Liadrin, or Trell. Rude Dinosaur.
He always does good acronyms.
Yeah, he does have acronyms for all of our names, changing every week.
Romantically enslave.
That one, it's a little suspect, perhaps. Lufer of US Wormrest Accord, though, is not. Nor is Ejectocito, cuz.
What about Rude Dinosaur?
Rude Dinosaur. That's a good one. Ejectocito, cuz. Dude, I wonder what that means.
It's from a movie.
Just cuz? Exclamation?
Okay. No, Ejectocito, cuz. It's from a movie, man.
What movie?
Yeah, I don't know.
What does it mean?
Is it one of the Fast and the Furious movies?
Oh, Too Fast, Too Furious.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, Too Fast, Too Furious.
I've seen that movie, but I did not connect that.
Okay.
Mugatu, San of US Kill Jaden, Daz Boot, better Mage Lead than Tal. Brought to you by Dratnos the Excel Wizard, Brett Ceratops. Gino, the 24th best DH on Thrall. Not bad.
Congratulations, moving on up.
Necrus.
Climate.
Will ever Blizzard care about balance and spec identity? Shadow Priest can pump if you chain pull, just give them a chance. We will, on bursting weeks. Nevuk.
NASA spell me.
Sin Mora. Actually, we might just play him on every week, TBH, though, with the Shadowlands meta. Eevee, Frosty K new meta, also a Shadowlands thing, pretty cool. Genobeam pushed on a Tyrannical week, what a tryhard, but still isn't 3900 and needs to get good. Take Light of the Protector and Rage Regen off the GCD. Woe Bonesy no verse. Gallic,
Oh, it's
Notric.
Frenzied Region.
Oh, okay.
I keep meaning to say that.
Yeah, and Rage Regen is that's Fury Warrior defensive, right? I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
Did I
change
type
it.
in
They
wrong? Am I an idiot?
What? No, don't change it. If maybe they got it wrong, or maybe they're making a I don't know. Whatever. Just leave.
Maybe I got it wrong. Honestly,
Yeah, we'll have to
I
find the
never know,
source.
man.
Sorry. I'll hold on.
All right. Tails has unilaterally changed it to Frenzy Regen. So
I didn't touch it, man.
Okay.
My hands are sitting.
Trell's the person changing it. Okay. All right.
We just have a Google Doc. It's hard to tell.
Yeah. all I see for the names is Anonymous Manatee is changing it. That's Trell. Trell's Anonymous Manatee. All right.
Accept that.
Vamp of Storm Rage. Ion scheduled a Tettle's Flame. Vesuvius and Glade need to choose a main. I don't think people need to choose a main for Shadowlands just yet, but the time is kind of approaching.
Apparently, the lore behind that one is that they were both pulling their hair out at not knowing what they wanted to main in Shadowlands.
Oh yeah, you just relax. You're fine. You got time.
No, I think you should mauled and really stress about this one.
Like the
Oh,
only
yeah.
reason to be stressed is if you need to level something, and you need to pick what to level now. But besides that, like if you've got leveled characters or if you're willing to buy a boost whenever you do decide, there's not time pressure on this. It's okay. You can wait until pre-patch and even try stuff out in pre-patch to decide what you want to play. Also, I wouldn't look at it as locking yourself in for the whole expansion. You're just like I think the best time to pick an expansion long main, if you do that, is after the first tier. Like play the first tier on just whatever, and then if you want to play something for a whole expansion, pick it after the first tier because that's when you'll know more about how they all play and what's good. Anna's long forgotten unsocketed boots. Oh no. Oh no.
That's unlucky.
Dude, I played like 5 dungeons this expansion with a 9 haste gem in a character. Like an old cataclysm or mop gem in a character.
What the?
Why? Why not just buy a new gem?
I didn't know, dude. I literally just socketed a haste gem. It looked the same, and it was a mop gem. Prop Paladin is too strong to stay in the meta for long. Die Meat,
Yep.
Monk got a blue post, but wait until next week. Sync, OCE Podling, but I agree on the blue post.
Oh yeah, the blue post actually was pretty funny. It was basically like, "Don't worry, we're actually working on Monk, but we haven't done anything yet. Just wait." That's all it said.
Fair enough, right? Like, I mean, some specs have to be the last ones to get changed on beta.
I think I'm an
Yeah.
idiot. I'm pretty sure it was just supposed to be OCE Podling. I think I forgot to get rid of. Okay, I'm an idiot. Hold on. Anyways, I think.
Oh, the blue post was from Diamond's last
It was
week
from
thing?
No, it was from his last week. I think I forgot to remove that part. Hold on.
All right, well, this incompetence brought to you by Dettles. Xylic, Anubara should swap Feral in Shadowlands. And that's it. That's the end of our patron list. Thanks all for
You
your
called me
support.
incompetence, but you've called him Dimeat 2 weeks in a row, and it's
It's
Dimat.
Dimiat or Dimat?
Yeah.
Dimat? Okay. All right. I'll get that next time, maybe.
God, we were so professional with this.
This just ends. I'm so good at this.
We're so good.
Let's move on to our Q&A segment. Our first question comes from Anil Karas in Discord. Will rogues... Wait, is this Alcaraz? Is the N here a typo?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, because I know Alcaraz. Alcaraz is a name I
read a little
recognize. Yeah. That's the guy who makes the M+ subcreation, right?
Yeah, subcreation, yeah.
Yeah, love that site. Okay. Will rogues be mandatory for M+ again in Shadowlands Season 1? Thinking about stuff like
That's a good
skipping with Shroud.
No. By and large, not. Sub-Rogue does super stupid amounts of damage right now, and their priority damage is pretty good, like it historically has always been. So I think Subtlety is very strong in of itself, so they may end up being meta because of that. Are they going to be meta because of skips again? The answer is probably not. there's going to be some dungeons like Necrotic Wake where you're going to be just, I don't know, 55% overcount. But by and large, dungeons are most of the time okay to where you're not going to be largely overcount like you were in BFA dungeons.
I actually disagree, but only from a future perspective. I think that there's going to be so many new ideas and slightly better routes every day because it's a brand new season, brand new expansion. Nobody knows the dungeons yet. I think having a rogue is actually invaluable in season 1 because there will be a skip that you want to try all of a sudden, like any random day, and having a rogue might make that possible, you know.
But the word mandatory here, like you're not going to be going 30% over count anymore just by holding W and walking straight to the dungeon, except for in like 1 or 2 dungeons.
Yeah,
right?
so I expect
like, the other side and Necrotic Wake are the only ones that come to my mind of like, holy fuck, why are we so overcount?
Sure, not mandatory, but yeah, I agree.
I think maybe like most top groups will probably contain a rogue like they did at all BFA.
Yes.
Right.
The only reason I would see that not being true is if it's so hostile to melee that you played through a ranged group, and if you're doing that, then rogue will be off the list. Obviously, one nice thing about rogue as well is that rogues are a good way to get access to Necrolord for Necrolord skips in Plaguefall and Theater Pain, or for not for skips, but for the Necrolord Covenant locked abilities.
Right.
There is
Warlocks can also do it, right? Warlocks also can Necrolord. Affliction and Destruction locks can and do, but if you're not playing with one of those, rogue I think is one of the few good ways to get a Necrolord into your group.
Brewmaster might be a good Necrolord class. It could be Kyrian as well. I'm not sold on it yet, but it's possible.
Kyrian I feel like is one of the other ones that's hard to find as well. So being able to be good at both of those, yeah. Resto can, okay.
Yeah. So people also aren't utilizing Engineering Belt or Invisibility Potions yet as well.
Right. So like people aren't doing that in beta, but
That's
like
true.
Those will be good. Like, what, you know?
I was just saying
okay.
Purely for the Shroud stuff. I think Rogue is good for other reasons, but in terms of like pure Shroud utility, I don't think it's as high as it.
How much were people shrouding BFA dungeons in beta?
A good amount, but not like. I think there were so many more main shrouds by the middle of season 1 than there were in beta. Like there were already quite a few, like shrouding the beginning of Underrot was in beta. Shrouding the beginning of Freehold to the boss after the first pull was already in there, I think.
I don't know. I feel like the shrouds will develop over time as well. Like I feel like I agree with Trell that like shrouds are going to be a common good strategy in a lot of these dungeons and in a lot of spots. But yeah, I mean, like in Freehold, you're not going to be screwed on count if you can't shroud, right? It's just going to be nice to pull the stuff you want to pull instead of the stuff that's in the way.
They'll be good. I don't think they're mandatory though.
Yeah.
The reality of beta is there's only a couple of people doing the dungeons. Like if people think that the meta is what people see on streams right now, it's going to be way, way different by the time there's thousands, millions of people doing these things and coming up with their own ideas. Like that's just how the internet works. You take the conglomerate of knowledge out there, not just your own ideas.
The season 1 meta as well is also primordial, right? It's also just like people playing season 1 is where you figure out what the meta is for the expansion. By everybody testing everything and seeing what's good. That's the process. That's the thing.
Favorite part.
People always like they're like, why don't you give the off meta specs a chance? You know, why don't you showcase the off meta specs and like give them a chance to prove that they work? But like that is the reason the meta develops is that chance is given to every spec, and the ones that get through it. Like there's sometimes stuff that's missed, and some like it takes people looking back or playing a spec in a new way to make it clear that it's actually good. But like the reason the meta specs are the meta specs is because all the specs were given a chance, and those were the ones that did the best. And that process happens a little bit in beta, but mostly in season 1. So, and then continuing every time there's changes. All right, next question comes from No Name in Discord. How do I look for a new cutting edge guild for Shadowlands? I'm looking at trying to find a new one, finding it a bit daunting. So you're looking for a guild that is currently cutting edge, and you want to join it for Shadowlands and continue being cutting edge with them. Yeah, it's a tough time actually getting into a guild at the end of an expansion, because like the amount of guilds around kind of contracts over time. Guilds die and then form up at starts of expansions as well. So it's a good time to find a guild in terms of like if you find a guild, it's really nice to be in a guild at this point, and so it's high value to get into one. But it is also tricky. It's challenging to get into one for Shadowlands at this point, There are some though. There are roster openings on guilds as a result of people like quitting at the end of BFA, but I don't know. For the most part, most rosters and most cutting edge guilds, I'd say, are pretty
I would
fuller
say
than
just
average.
open up WoW Prog,
Yeah.
and then you click next. Like you select your region, and you click next until you get to the level of rating that you want to be at, and then you look at the guilds at that level where you want to be, and then you just click on their WoW Prog. You open in a new tab, you see what their application requirements are, and you look at what they're recruiting. You just fill out an app and you just ship it, and you see if they respond to you or not.
Yeah, you look for. I would open 20 tabs, close all the ones that times don't work for me, and then look through the guilds and close all the ones where they're not recruiting my spec or whatever, and then after the tabs that are still open after that, then go to the next 20 guilds and do that again.
WoW Prog is typically kept the most up to date for guild recruitment right now.
Is against Raider.io?
Yeah, people are boomers and still using WoW Prog, man. I don't get it.
Raider.io is definitely a nicer system in terms of features, but the recruitment features are maybe one advantage WoW Progress still has. There are some things that WoW Progress has that Raider.io doesn't yet. But even if Raider.io is slightly better, the big features, that's where all the guilds are, right? Every guild has a WoW Progress recruiting page. Only half of them have Raider.io recruiting pages, so you just want to be where everybody has all their recruiting pages. I, of course, would love to see everybody move over to Raider.io because I think Raider.io owns. And
Drennis gets paid by Raider.io as well.
Raider.io is awesome. That is super sweet. But for right now, I'd say WoW Progress is the tool to use for guild recruitment.
I would agree.
You should also log into both Raider.io and WoW Prog and make yourself known on your profile that you're looking for a guild, and put your stuff in there, what you've done in the past, what level you're at. Tell them that you've improved and you're looking to push higher, in guilds and attract the eye of some of these cutting edge guilds that you want to get in. I actually did this recently, and I didn't think it would get much response, and I don't know if this is what caused it or not, but I got a bunch of whispers about looking for a guild when I put in my info on WoW Prog a couple months ago.
Yeah, don't be afraid of completely if you're somebody who has a reputation for being awful at the game, or you ninja'd an item 5 years ago and you're still blacklisted in all top guilds, just rename your Discord account, your Battle.net account, rename everything, get a second shot, and you might get a shot at guilds that would previously have just blacklisted you for they're for past transgressions like those.
I was wondering where he's about to go with that. That was such a roundabout thing.
Dude, I've heard a lot of stories recently about people who somebody who ninja'd a font from Limit in their EP split, and then is now getting into rating, and that's baggage to carry around. I don't know.
What if you grief your MDI team, get blacklisted by the Mythic Plus community, then rename yourself as something else?
That's a good move.
Yes, I remember that.
You just got to make sure. You got to just make sure that nobody knows, right? You just hit them with the full rename, and you can drop all the. Basically, if you have a negative reputation, if you think your reputation is a bar and it's negative, you just reset it to 0. You can do that as long as you're not a high profile figure. Unfortunately,
even world first guilds can do that.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
Shout out Wildcard Gaming.
Moving swiftly along.
That's not what I was talking about.
Moving along before our reputation bar turns negative. Supra from Discord asks, between the melee unfriendly nature of the affixes and target capping, do we anticipate double range token rogue comp? So we were talking about this. Double range then token rogue is the differentiation there. I put the emphasis weird, but I think that's probably my default expectation for the meta is double range rogue. Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking about it a little bit on
so
stream. I think Trell agreed. Yeah, in my chat, we were talking about it the other day. It's double range seems like it's the most. First of all, it's the easiest to pick up. Being able to learn how to do a dungeon with 2 ranged in as opposed to a bunch of melee is fairly easy because there's so many anti-kite mechanics in dungeons that your melee just get completely just obliterated in for no real reason. So just holding off on that and just stacking yourself up with range, as long as you're not lacking kicks, you should be fine.
That being said, we're talking about this as the meta for the super high end keys. I don't take this as you can't play Mythic Plus if you're Frosty K or whatever.
This is really, really early too.
Right. This is A of all, it's our predictions for what the very top of the leaderboard is going to look like, and B of all, they're not even necessarily you may have a different prediction and that is equally valid. Everybody's entitled to their own prediction.
Yeah, we're saying this based off of like not only bugs in the current dungeons, but just like tuning issues that'll probably change. Like threat is a problem. Melee have a bad thing there because range are safer with threat generally. Anti-melee mechanic affixes like storming and spiteful. There's also just mechanics in the game where they automatically target the melee player closest to them instead of the tank. There's a mechanic called Chop in Theater of Pain that just kills your melee. It's really funny.
God, we love the third boss of Spires of Ascension as well, where he just randomly fucking hits your melee with the boss mechanic as opposed to your tank.
Beautiful.
A lot of that stuff will probably change. Hopefully it'll get more balanced, But for now, double range looks good.
The combination, the main thing for me, like the AoE cap as well, that is mostly affects melee and doesn't affect range as much, seems like something that's going to really bring Shadowlands to being a ranged meta in the way that BFA was a melee meta for M+. And Legion was a range meta, so I don't know, it's not necessarily a bad thing.
I don't know if Rogue will be the token melee though. It'll either be Rogue or DK from like really, really, really early testing. DK just does
slaps.
Dumb damage.
Yeah.
Dumb damage right now.
Yeah, not too badly capped either.
Yeah, I think it'll be the same problem as this last season of Mythic Plus. I mean, everybody kept their Rogue in the end, even though it wasn't optimal in Season 4, because Rogue just makes so many more things easy and less mistakes can wipe the key.
Yeah, like having a melee with an immunity and a cheat death and like evasion, like whew, that's a lot of ways for your melee to not die, to not accumulate a bunch of deaths over a day of pushing keys and a bunch of dead keys as a result.
Right.
All right. Dymat asks, does it look like Blizzard got balance between the dungeons better this time, or will there be a KR and a freehold in Shadowlands?
There will still be a KR and a freehold, 100%. That's how it always is going to be, man.
Yeah, I think so too.
Dude, the other side is just okay. The other side and Plaguefall, not only are they just grossly undertuned, they are just the least fun dungeons. Like they are just so unfun to play with how they function at their core. And then you have stuff like Mists of Tina's Scythe, which is fairly fun, and then you have the best dungeon, which is Halls of Atonement.
Which so
Halls of Atonement's definitely the freehold.
Well, it's Halls of Atonement's the freehold. Maybe the other side and is like a Toll de Gore, right? Where it's like high level, doable, undertuned, fast, but also stupid.
No. It's
like side's pretty hard right now.
Oh, okay. You said undertuned.
It's like
titles.
Seat of the Triumvirate.
Okay, see. So you mean like those ones are the overtuned ones?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really, really hard to actually just do the dungeon on the other side right now.
Siege of Borealis. That's it.
Ooh, Plaguefall would be kind of like Siege a little bit.
Yeah, Alliance Siege.
Alliance. Plaguefall is like Shrine of the Storm level long too, and it's just I don't know what happens, but every single patch they implement onto the beta, they somehow make that dungeon infinitely worse. You shroud the first half of that dungeon because those mushroom mines are just impossible.
I don't know how it's possible. You just don't stand in them, but they're annoying.
What about the tentacle graveyard, man? They took the left side from Underrot with all the fucking worms, and they made that into a section of a fucking dungeon somehow.
All right, that's true. They added a bunch of they added even more crazy stuff to Plaguefall this week. Every time you kill a tentacle, I hear you spawn 8 or 9 slimes.
Yes, 8 slimes.
Soak.
Yeah,
they do a lot of damage, and they probably spawn in the poison water as well.
Yeah,
beautiful.
They didn't spawn in the water. I don't remember at least.
Yeah, I don't know. Stuff like dungeon difficulty balance as well. That is something there is still time. Like even if it gets fixed throughout season 1, that's still that's okay, right? Like that's fine. It's not a problem for stuff to be mismatched coming out of beta a little bit in terms of dungeon difficulty, because that's really hard to hit. The main thing is just don't leave Alliance Siege in the game for 2 years this time, right? We can do better. All right. We've got some questions now from Twitter. First one from @audio_82. After playing the new affixes, it seems they try to push out melee more in M+. What's your take on this group? I guess we've kind of answered this, but yes. True.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep.
Definitely true at the moment.
Definitely with the new fixes as well.
All right, next question comes from @JestorCT. If I wanted to finish out BFA learning different roles for Mythic Plus, which spec would be the easiest for each role? And they've subdivided DPS into melee and range. So tank, melee, range, and heals. And which spec would be the easiest to pick up each of these in M+.
I think that's a great question. I think a lot of players will see the current Mythic Plus meta and be like, I want to do that. And the easiest way is to definitely like learn the FOTM roles at that moment. I think like the FOTM specs of each role are the ones that are easiest to do in most situations and keys. So like Prot Warrior for tanks, you have an easier time picking up threat than any other tank. You can have an easier time living with proper gear than any other tank usually. And then like BM Hunter is the FOTM for range, right? Which is I think fairly easy to learn personally.
Yeah.
You said easy. You're talking easy in terms of like to get into groups. I read that it's easy to learn and to play.
I think it's easy to learn and to play. I think that's what they're looking for as well. But I mean, Charles making a good point where like Prot Warrior is easier to play in that it's more forgiving to mistakes because by pressing Thunderclap you have generated threat. Like you don't have that problem that Vengeance Demon Hunter has of like if you press 9 out of 10 good globals you don't have enough threat. Like you need to press 10 out of 10.
Yeah, even if
in
you
addition
play
to that,
perfectly,
12
you'll
out of
lose
10.
threat.
Yeah.
The ease here is that you're able to get into a group very seamlessly because there's going to be
That
a
as
little
well.
friction because you're playing something that's flavor of the month. I mean, whenever I read this, I was thinking he's talking classes, so I was thinking like Guardian Druid, Havoc Demon Hunter, Beast Mastery Hunter, and then I didn't really know a healer. Like Holy Priest is the easiest healer to like heal on, but I wouldn't ever recommend playing that in Mythic Plus. So I wrote Resto Druid, but
Yeah, I do think that they're splitting the difference a little bit between the two things you're suggesting. Like I think as well for ranged BM Hunter, I wouldn't classify that as like learning ranged in M+ really because BM Hunter is just a melee that has a real long melee range. Like you don't have to learn how to cast and stuff like you do if you're
True.
Like if that's something.
Why I think it's the easiest range because you can still do all the range jobs, but have a really really easy time doing it.
Depends. Yeah, so it depends if you're trying to learn how to like actually play any of the other range though. I would pick something that actually has a cast bar. I'd pick something like maybe not Fire Mage level, but just something that has some cast times in there, like Frost Mage or something.
Frost Mage, that's what I was going to say. I was about to say Frost Mage seems like not that difficult.
But again, like Charles was saying, like those specs are worse, and so getting into groups, doing high keys will be harder on them. But I think if you're not concerned about that part, if you're literally just trying, like you're just saying, all right, look, BFA's got 2 months left in it. I just want to play like a spec or two, like in some 10s and 15s, to like figure out how this role works. Then that tuning is a little bit less relevant, and it's more just about picking something where you get to pick up the fundamentals effectively.
Well, it also just means there's a ton of resources for that class you're trying to learn because everybody is streaming the same class because it's FOTM and it's the best class at the moment.
That's a big bonus to Prot Warrior for tanks. Yeah, is that like
if you want to learn Prot Warrior, you can like literally turn on one of 100 streams and watch people play Prot Warrior and figure out who plays the best and learn from them. You know,
but like quality over quantity, right?
If
you pick Brewmaster, you don't get as many streams, but you get much better ones and great YouTube content to go and watch to pick that up. So.
Over at youtube.com/Trelsky.
youtube.com/Trelsky.
Actually, that's not even his YouTube. That's not his YouTube. Hold on. He doesn't have a YouTube URL.
Does he not? Oh, is it youtube.com/as
Yep. He doesn't have a custom YouTube URL. Hold on. I knew this.
youtube.com/Trelsky. That page isn't available. Oh my god. Unbelievable. This is so sad.
His YouTube channel name is Trelsky, I guess.
Yeah.
It's okay, guys. I literally just upload my VODs.
YouTube search Trelsky. All right. Next question coming right up. Can we skip? So this is from @SaneTweet. Can we skip an entire Prideful mob the same way we handled Reaping? More ways,
yes.
Right? There are more ways to skip Prideful than there is Reaping because it doesn't global combat on Bull.
That's actually true. There are more ways to actually skip them somehow.
Yeah.
But, maybe we won't. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Hopefully we can't.
You want to know something? If you wipe to a Prideful mob, it no longer has True Sight.
So it's reverse. It's reverse. Runecarver Storm True Sight, right? Where it's True Sight until it's pulled.
Yeah.
What happens if you pull it and then vanish? What happens if a hunter hits it from 40 yards and then feigns? Does it lose True Sight as well?
No.
Then you can just shroud past it. Man.
I haven't tested it that thoroughly. I mean, maybe.
I don't know. Prideful right now is fun to play, fun to kill, and potentially wrong to do that. So hopefully they make it right to do the fun thing. That's always my thing with game design is like players are gonna do the right thing. It's not as a game designer you need to make sure that the right gameplay pattern is also the fun one.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with that.
I think Prideful is close to that right now. It's close enough that it might work already in most cases, but a little bit of added security in to shore that up, to make sure that the unfun gameplay pattern is also like clearly the wrong one, would be very welcome. All right. We've got a couple of questions now from Twitch chat. First one comes from Riley. Would you guys like 20-minute dungeons, or do you prefer the current length?
So
I like 20-minute dungeons.
Really? Okay. I prefer the current length, but that's also because I'm a no life without a job and like not very many obligations except for going to school and like streaming on Twitch and making YouTube content. So I don't really care too much. I could see like the real strong appeal of 20 to 30-minute dungeon ranges as opposed to the 40 to 45-minuters, though.
Yeah, 20 to 30 is a better way to put it. I like it because not only is it just like what Tuttle said, I have less time, so I like the shorter dungeons, and I don't have to have quite as much knowledge as for those as like the 40-minute dungeons. But also from an MDI perspective, if every dungeon is like 20 to 30 minutes, that means the MDI run of that dungeon will be like 10 and not 20 like a King's Rest MDI was for quite a while, you know, which makes practicing for it a lot better and actually playing it more consistent as well.
Makes the viewer experience worse, though, because you have more ad time and more breaks in between matches, but like you have the exact same amount of ad time and breaks in between matches, but you have shorter length matches, so the viewer experience is worse.
Well, but if all the dungeons are short enough, they can like up the keystone level a bit and to bring the length up a little bit.
Technically, yeah, they could do that, but I don't think they would do that for other reasons.
Yeah, there are other reasons to be a little bit worried about that, but like if you don't have any King's Rests in there, the thing that stops you from upping the difficulty level is the hardest dungeon, right? So like if the hardest and longest dungeon gets shorter and easier, then you can up the level of all the other ones in MDI.
So another substantial upside over the 20-minute dungeons is it feels like less terrible to like zone out and reset and try again on that dungeon as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're not fucking wiping 41 minutes into a 42-minute Shrine of the Storm and then leaving the instance because you don't want to really retry it, as opposed to if you wipe, I don't know, 12 minutes into your Shrine of the Storm, you're like, all right, we go again.
I feel like 30 to 36. The dungeons BFA that have timers from 30 to 36 are good lengths. I don't think I want to get shorter than a Taldazar. Taldazar already feels like a pretty short dungeon to me.
Maw of Souls was really fucking short.
Yeah, I don't want to go back to Maw of Souls lengths. And I think one important thing as well is I don't want an expansion again like Legion, where there are some dungeons half as long as others, like Maw versus Halls of Valor type length differentials. Because I think when you get a Mythic Keystone, those Mythic Keystones should be pretty comparable to each other in terms of like what kind of time commitment you're signing up to.
I suspect Halls of Atonement may be a 24-minute dungeon before the end of it all. Like that dungeon is so... Like either that or they're going to have to increase the amount of trash you need to kill by like 50%. Like I don't know how. And at that point, it's like, I don't even know where you get that much more count because you're killing a significant amount of the mobs in Halls of Atonement just generally. And that dungeon is being done on just stupid high levels right now because the timer is 36 minutes, but you could even have like 40 deaths and still time it on a reasonable level.
Arcway, I missed you. Do you remember the 42 death Arcway?
At Hippos Are Neat. At Hippos Are Neat.
During MDI.
Yeah, in MDI.
I think there was a King's Rest that had more deaths.
There may well have been.
I remember watching some hour-long King's Rest in MDI.
I was awake for that King's Rest. I was there. I was at 6 a.m.
Ah, yes. Was that the last match of the day for you guys, or did you have more after?
No,
oh god. So you were just waiting.
There were going to be 2 matches after. The team that won that series though forfeited their next match. I was like, oh, thank fucking god. and then we just had to play the finals, and we just got to late. I was like, oh, fucking god.
I think that was the King's Rest with the clip of the Prot Warrior speed potting, throwing the 5-pack, and then immediately jumping off the bridge.
Dude, so the speed pot, run forward, hesitate, jump off. Yeah, it's one of those things where like we've all done boneheaded stuff that like looks that stupid on the replay, and like that's not the thought process. But like when you watch it again and you ascribe the thought process to it, you're like, oh my goodness, this is funny.
I in our clip of the week, I literally fucking got knocked back the wrong direction, immediately disengaged off the ledge. I'm like, oh, like if you had that from like a third person POV, you just watch it in real time. I'm sure that looked just dumb,
I was-
like so dumb.
It appears this chicken yearns for the void. All right, last question from Dippin' Dots in Twitch chat. Is Might dedicated enough to day raid on Thanksgiving like Pop-Tart Corn Dog?
Oh god.
1, no, we're never day rating. 2, no, we're not rating on Thanksgiving either. We've already said that we're probably going to reschedule that.
Yeah, I actually don't know
Nice.
what our plans are for that, but I'd be down for a nice D-Gen Turkey Day raid. Turkey Day raid.
Dratnus, we're gonna have the Race to World First to cast. Big
Dude,
dog.
whatever. I'll just tell them work around my raid schedule. Here's my raid schedule, and it's just
All day?
It's just like I just hit them with like a world first level raid schedule, and they're just like, oh, are you racing for world first level? I'm like, no, we're racing for US
We're
8th,
just
man.
trying to be like that, okay?
Yeah, the race for world 35th. All right,
My guild just doesn't raid on Thanksgiving, so we're good. We don't raid on Thursdays.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting actually how much the WoW meta, like what percentage of WoW guilds raid on Tuesdays, right? Because Tuesday's the reset. It's like 90% of
NA
WoW
guilds
guilds. NA guilds raid on Tuesday. Yeah, and for EU guilds it's Wednesday, right?
Yep.
And it's like, I don't know, how much you can play WoW at a high end level, how many guilds are available to join. If you have Tuesday off versus you work Tuesday nights or whatever, like it's such a huge difference. It's so weird.
You can find a guild that works like
You
works with
can,
your
but
schedule.
like of
There's a guild
US
for everybody.
of US top 100 guilds, the proportion that raid Tuesdays is like, it's got to be north of 90%.
I don't think north of 90% is right, but
It's got to be
that-
north of 90%. Raid Tuesdays in the US top 100.
I think there's a lot of weekend guilds out there. I raid a weekend guild for a while.
90% is too high. I think it's probably like 80.
All right. Well, I do not have the ability or to not be lazy and look this up myself, but we
So that
can
means
use
I
our
would.
clout and have somebody else. Somebody let us know in the
No,
Titanforge
Dratnus has
Discord.
homework.
Let us know in the Titanforge Discord what proportion of US top 100 guilds raid on Tuesdays, and we will discuss it on our next show. For now, that's going to be all for this one. We'll be back next week with episode number 63, a very special episode. Stay tuned. It's going to be our best one yet. Actually, I have no idea what we're going to do. We don't know what the topic's going to be, but it might be
Yeah,
good.
I
It
don't
might
know.
be
I
pretty
don't
good.
know. Figure it out.
Yeah, might be good. Might not be. I don't know. Well, you'll have to find out then. Later, everybody.
Later.